Soon after Russian troops entered into Ukraine, we were the only local American television station to send local journalists to cover the crisis, and we saw firsthand the hardships many of these refugees had to endure. In March 2022, just weeks after the Russians invaded, the Medica border crossing, one of the few crossings from Ukraine into Poland, was filled with volunteers from all over the world. At that border, we saw many Ukrainian refugees, mostly women and children, take their first few steps into Poland.
It took us 2 days to go from Kharkiv west to Lviv, but everyone is very friendly and we're grateful for that.
Most of the refugees we saw only had a backpack or a suitcase, carrying as little as possible for the long journey into Poland. The crossing was crammed, but filled with people who have good intentions. But the help didn't end at the border. In Warsaw, we saw the soccer stadium transform into a place where refugees can help get settled in a country that is not their own. And as you can see right behind me, there's a long line of Ukrainian refugees, and what they're doing here is they're waiting to get their Polish ID number, which would help them basically get any medical assistance as well as some cash while they're staying here in Poland. Animal shelters also took in people's pets while families looked for a place to stay. Refugees filled train stations, giving them free rides to cities in and out of Poland. Many refugees fled to Poland and other neighboring countries without knowing anyone there. But we met people who took in refugees into their homes, turning strangers into family. We saw an overwhelming amount of goodwill in Poland. But during our reporting, we also stumbled upon people from our local communities doing their part. People from Corning, New York, helping refugees at the border.
We're doing good work here, for the sake of humanity,
And Erie's Logistics Plus, making arrangements to deliver humanitarian aid.
It just makes us want to redouble our efforts and collect more, gather more, raise more, to be able to send it to the people here so that they can help the people from Ukraine.
And Chautauqua County, New York, putting her life on the line, driving into Ukraine to deliver medical supplies and military vests.
Intentionally, none of this is intentional. It's kind of there's this God thing kind of floating above that makes this all come together, in my opinion.
After waiting for hours at the Poland border, we made our way to the western city of Lviv, Ukraine. Our arrival was just hours after a Russian missile strike that targeted energy infrastructure sites. It was apparent Russia was using winter as a weapon.
When electricity doesn't work, we don't have our broadband, and we just nothing can connect us with their inner world. And I don't know how my parents and how my friends are, and I just need to make some guesses that everything is okay because I cannot call them and I cannot contact them.
We saw people in Lviv try to live as normal of a life as possible by playing in the snow, running errands, and going to restaurants, if they are open. The strikes on energy sites kept most of the city in the dark, unless the store had a generator, which was a rare sight. Ukrainians had to adapt working, living, and eating in the dark. Although the Russians never stepped foot in Lviv, it doesn't mean it's safe.
Well, the danger is huge, and from the sky, I saw six times during this period of time minimum. The missiles in the sky.
Across town, we saw people prepare for these attacks by stacking sandbags by windows and statues.
The sandbags to protect the windows from the bombing, because at the beginning of the war, when there were fast rockets attacks on Lviv, also people were very afraid.
Air alarm systems would notify people of an incoming missile attack, making people race for shelter underground where they could sometimes be forced to stay for hours during an attack. We were lucky we didn't experience that when we were in Ukraine. But what we did experience was seeing strangers helping strangers. We met with people making humanitarian runs into Ukraine and prepare meals for the soldiers on the front lines. The people who are still in Ukraine say this is their home and they don't want to leave. But those who are leaving, they have to deal with long traffic lines to get to Poland, forcing many to wait anywhere from 6 to 24 hours at a time. We also crossed through the same border crossing we visited back in March, looking completely different than what it did at the beginning of the war. And for many who left Ukraine early on, are most likely living with strangers in a foreign land.
The fact that there are other people from your homeland is very helpful.
For this group in the south of England, they frequently meet up to keep a sense of community. One thing we did hear often while we were in Ukraine, people asking us to not give up.
See that Ukraine now is a shield for the security of the whole world, and that's all what we ask for is support, and don't forget about Ukraine.
The people that we've met have made a huge impact on us. They've really opened up and shared their experiences from the war. But sadly, a year after Russia's invasion, the war continues. And so we too will continue our coverage on this war until Russia leaves, and maybe even after that, to share the destruction it's left behind. In Washington, D.C., Rachel Knapp reporting.